All right, let's go. All right, let's go. Let's start with Rutherford's press conference. So we call it a press conference.
Earlier this week, this is Sunday morning, so this would have been like Monday or Tuesday, I think he had it, right?
I forget, I had to watch it. I think he started out with the good intentions. I think the questions got a little, what's the word, Cindy?
I use the word stupider. Is that a word?
No, they just got more in depth, and I think he just kept digging himself into a hole.
No, the one thing that and I like him, the one thing that he said that I couldn't believe that I was hearing, that Bruce is our coach now, get this word now, but we talk to other people. Holy gee!
When I heard it, I was in the car listening to it. I couldn't believe he said that. Like I thought, oh, this is like some joke that they're playing.
I watched the whole thing, and he started out pretty good. I think he started out, with good intentions, but it sure was a tough one.
So again, this is Sunday morning. So the rumor is that Monday they're going to announce Rick Tocchet. And last night against Edmonton, they lost.
Tocchet's a good guy. And I hope they give him a chance. They love Bruce so much that.
They're saying Bruce, there it is, and all that. But have you seen anything like that in sports? That's going to be one of the cruelest things I think I've ever seen.
I was hoping they'd win last night just to give him one last victory or something. I mean, the guy's making, what?
2.5. This is the last year of his contract. So what I kind of read was that they were trying to extend it and they couldn't come to an agreement.
He should have.
That's what I'm saying. His wife's probably saying, see, you should have signed.
He should have signed.
He never, but he got off to a pretty good start. What was it?
Oh, he won the first last year. Well, I think it was the first 7 or 8. They won the first 7 or 8 games and made a run for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they were pretty, and they thought he can't do anything wrong.
So what should have Rutherford done then? Like if he was what should he have done?
What I would have done is just kept my mouth shut. Let him. I would have fired him right there. And Rick Tocchet would have taken over, would have been the coach last night.
So
Saturday night.
But my question is, if you're Rutherford, why would you fire him now? You're not going to make the playoffs. Like why would you say?
Get ready for next year.
Get ready for next year.
Yeah, that's the only thing. You got to think of the club. You're not going to make the club.
Do you think they're being mean to him so that he'll quit, so they don't have to pay him?
Well, that was an idea that.
That's the way I would think of it.
Yeah, you mean he wouldn't take the embarrassment?
Yeah, they're making it. It's embarrassing for him. It's hard on him. His wife, you know what I mean? What he's going through, and just make it so that he quits, so they don't have to pay him.
Yeah, well, he wasn't going to quit. But I'll tell you one thing.
Well, you kind of like that. Like in your coaching career, you kind of had somewhat not as bad, but a similar situation. First in Rochester. Well, after Doug Adams hired you, he went up to a reporter, and what did he say?
He said, well, how do you think he's going to do? He said, I don't know. He says, they're hired to be fired. But I think the funniest one, he called me in, and I knew I was fired. And he's smoking a little, I remember he was smoking a little cigar, like little
cigarettos, like Clint Eastwood.
Oh, yeah, it's like Clint Eastwood. And he said, we're making a change in your department. I swear to you, the first couple of seconds, I go, who the hell's in our department? My department. I was the only guy.
And you were 18 points out of making the playoffs.
But I didn't play the game, Cindy. Mm. I remember him coming into the room, and he said, we've got $5,000 if, I can't think of the goaltender's name. If he plays, we saved $5,000, and I said he's not playing. I said
Serge Aubry.
Zimmerman.
Serge Aubry, I think.
Yeah, Serge Aubry.
And what happened was he had in his contract he had to play a minimal amount of games. If he didn't play that minimal amount of games, he got a bonus. So
I remember him come into the room, and I was having my nap, And he says, Serge Aubry playing tonight. I said, he's not playing tonight. We had a chance to make the playoffs.
And you almost did.
Well, you know what happened that game? I'll tell you what happened that game. He's, well, then and then he was really, I knew I was fired.
Was that Lynn Zimmerman?
How come I knew I was fired all the time? Yeah. Anyhow, he said, okay, then you're playing a rookie. I don't know, Whalen or something. I don't know what his name was. Something like that. That started with a W. And so I'm sitting in the room. I never watched the warm-up. And Nate, the trainer, came in and said, I got bad news. I said, what's that? And I said, he says, Jimmy's broke his hand. I said, and I know who did it. He said, who? I said, the rookie. And he says, you're right.
Ouellette, wasn't it?
No.
French,
he played
one.
for us, but
but you said what happened was that Zimmy was kind of used to the guys taking shots along the ice, and this guy blasted one high, and he brought his glove up, but not expecting it, and hit his finger and broke his finger.
Yeah, and that was the end of us. And I think I played Serge Aubry.
Then you had to play Serge Aubry.
Then I had, yeah.
And we needed to win, and I think we were up 3-2.
3-2, and do you remember? Yeah, and remember who the other coach? It was the Cincinnati Swords.
It was Floyd Smith.
Floyd Smith, your buddy from Hershey, who married, and you
and he had a zillion points, and
they weren't really trying. And I remember he started his, because you and him, and you both married Hershey ladies and all that, and so he put in his second goalie. Yeah, and so there's nothing more motivating for a goalie than know that you're being thrown in, thinking you're going to lose, and probably he knew the relationship.
Couldn't get a pee by him.
That's right. So he wanted to show his coach, oh, yeah? You want to lose this game?
We're going over all my firing.
That's right.
So it was 3-2. We were up 3-2 going into the third. We needed to win.
If tie was no good.
Providence.
If we tied, we would have tied Providence, but Providence would have got in because they had more wins. Yep. And they had one shot on net in the third period and scored.
17-1.
17-1, and the one shot went in.
And it was 3-3 and missed the playoffs by not even by a point. We tied.
Technicality.
Yeah, but technicality, we lost it.
And I knew I was done. Didn't make any difference. Didn't matter how good I did or anything like
17 points in mid-season. You were out of the playoffs, and then you made it within that close, and then you got fired.
So it's funny. So you knew you were getting fired. Then you knew, right?
I knew I was going to get fired.
And then in Boston. With Harry after Game 7.
I knew I was getting fired.
Yeah. Well, you didn't really get fired.
I didn't get fired, but I sort of.
Technicality.
And
then in Colorado.
I really knew I was getting fired.
I don't think the fans there was kind of rumors going around, but the players knew. And we were playing Pittsburgh. And we had, it was one of the worst snowstorms we had that year. And we had 12,000 people. If we would have had a sellout if it wasn't.
We would have had a sellout.
And you won.
And we won 5-0.
And remember, you wore a big Stetson cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And as you walked out, all the players put their sticks overhead. So it was
like
you were
in the
walking,
air.
Like they do the swords when you get married and you're walking, and they did that.
All the players liked me. All the players liked me.
And the fans liked you.
Oh, yeah, the fans liked me.
Only one person didn't like you.
Yeah.
As usual. The person that counts.
But we had a good club. We really had a good club.
You go over that roster, Dad. Just think of the guys you had.
Yeah, we had a good club. But
Lanny McDonald.
I always think, though, Dad, with that was the owners, his long-range plan was he wanted to go to New Jersey.
Right.
Yeah.
And
if you got a goalie.
And if we were packing them in.
But why sign me?
I don't know. And then, right after you left, and the crowds went down, and then they did a midnight run, right? They packed up in the middle of the night and they ran to New Jersey.
Remember we went down there, Tim, and do you remember going down there and taking everything that was in the office and
cleaning up the office. You know what I remember about that?
What?
You know who was playing that night? Was Bob Seeger.
Really?
Was playing. It was McNichols Sports Arena. Bob Seeger was playing that night. So you were getting the stuff in your office and all that. And then I went out and listened to a sound check, and then they kicked me out.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyhow, you got kicked out too.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I've never, ever, and I've seen some pretty tough guys.
Well, Gallant was bad.
Oh, yeah. Well,
but not as cruel as this.
I think it was bad. I've never seen where the coaching on a Saturday, and another coach was going to take over. Now, I hope they don't take it out on Rick Tocchet, because he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He really is a good guy, and it's not his fault that.
Yeah, I hope the fans give him a chance.
Give him a chance. I remember hearing the story about him. I wasn't there. That they're in the corner. They're taking shots at the corner. I think Yami Yager was making fun of a guy. I think it was Tippett. Anyhow, he says, I'm telling you, quit making.
He was making fun of how much Yager was making, how much he was making, and how much this other veteran was making. He was making fun of him.
And Taka said to him, I'm telling you, quit making fun of that guy. It's not his fault. And he went down. He started to make fun of him again, and he corked him. Corked the star. So Rick is a good guy. I just hope they don't take it out on him.
So, Dad, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Spreads.ca. They're a Canadian-owned online casino and sportsbook. And if you sign up now and use the promo GRAPES, they'll match your deposit up to $500. You get 10 spins on the big wheel for some big dough. And your first sports bet, they'll spot you $25. And again, with the playoffs and football, there's a lot going on.
Boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot of them out there now.
Yeah, but these guys, if you're Canadian, it's Canadian dollars, and they're a Canadian company, and they're
and you can lose your money or make your money and Canadian money.
Right, and they support the Don Cherry Pet Rescue Foundation quite a bit.
So we like them.
Right. So, Dad, I guess right now, a lot of trades haven't happened, but boy, there's an awful lot of rumors going around about guys trading this and that, and who's going where.
Well, they usually on their last year of their contract, and sometimes they go back. But what it is there's no sense in keeping your good players if you want to finish. We won't call it a tank job, but hey, how about with Rutherford? He said, that's what I thought we were doing. Somebody said something about a tank job. He says, I thought that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
And unfortunately, they got a lot of stars on their team, and they're still tanking.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guys going. Horvat, what is it? Bo Horvat.
Well, I think he's going to go. Their captain, and then of course they're talking Kane and Taze is going to go. They're going to go somewhere.
All the good players
are going, but
and it's pretty good if they if they have no trade in there, they can dictate who they go to.
Yeah, well, most of a lot of big names, those three guys, they're all in the last year of their contract.
Yeah.
So you either have to sign them or they're a rental player.
He
right?
said he give a pretty good money, good offer.
But we talked about this before, Dad. Isn't it? Aren't you taking a risk? Let's say if you're the Leafs, or if you're Boston, or let's say the Winnipeg, who's going along, bringing in a guy and screwing everything up.
If you can get a guy like Horvath, he's a pretty good hockey player. You might screw it up if you're on a big run of 15 in a row or something like that. You might put a guy in because the guy that you're taking out, you won with that guy. So. And now you're putting in another guy. I don't know. I don't think so. Now, Tim.
So, Dad, last week you and I and Cindy, we were watching on YouTube I think it was from 1978. The Toronto Maple Leafs were in the Boston Gardens.
They had a good club.
But it was amazing to see the difference in the hockey from now to
Unbelievable to watch it. In Boston, there was a girl that knew when there was going to be icings, and she'd call for the commercial before the icing was, done. It was really good. I mean,
there wasn't like, now today they have like 4 or 5 commercials in a row. They would have a commercial every third whistle, but it would be a 15-second commercial. So the whistle would go right to commercial, and you come back, the face-offs, they'd be ready to go in the face-off. We counted the first 2 periods. You know how many icings there were in the first 2 periods?
2.
2.
Now they get it, and if they get a little tired, they just throw it down.
There was going to be a third, but Mike Milbury smashed the guy into the boards and got a penalty. So technically there might have been 3.
Yeah.
But, it was unbelievable to see 40 minutes of hockey and only 2 icings.
Now they get it, and they just, if they're tired or anything, they just fire it down.
Well, the games are were so much shorter then, eh? Like they were over in an hour. And
you think, I don't know. I never counted that.
I think the games were shorter. And then the other thing that, it's because of the red line, how much more the defense and the players have to handle the puck.
They have to. Defensemen have to handle the puck. They just can't get it and just fire it up the boards up, and hoping the guy takes it in. But you're right. They do handle the puck more.
Yes, like I think that a lot of defensemen who are in the league today, if they put the red line in, would have a real tough time. Like I remember watching you say, okay, like Brad Park handled the puck a lot on our team, right? But Mike Milbury handled it a lot. Ricky Smith handled it a lot.
Yeah.
Gary Doak wasn't in because he was injured, and but all the Bruins.
Dennis O'Brien.
O'Brien, I would think a lot of the Leafs defensemen now would have a tough time playing in that league because you got to carry the puck up.
Well, you have to. Unless, Okay, Cindy, what did you go say?
I was going to say, Dad, you and I were talking about this. It even goes back to minor hockey in the sense of you watch the kids practice today in minor hockey, the AAA. I mean, they're always talking about pass the puck. And I remember you saying they shouldn't do any drills without having to have a puck at the end of their stick, right?
And the European players and Swedish players, that they always have a puck all the time. That's why they can handle it. And I hate to say they can handle a puck pretty good.
Well, I think, too, without the red line, it is a bit more like soccer now where you see the teams turning back.
Yeah.
Where when we were watching this game again was in 1978 with the red line in, it was straightforward up and down. There was no passing the puck back because you can't and I got to say that I was all for taking the red line out. I'm watching that. I think I like the game a little bit better with the red line in.
Well, Bobby Orr, who fastest guy I ever saw, said you have to slow it down. That's why there's so many injuries.
Well, then you're watching the game and from 78. How did those players ever survive with no helmets? And yet there wasn't that many injuries. I mean, you could go a whole show on that.
So the one thing, Dad, that I found funny was listening to the Boston play-by-play guys, right, the color guys, because today you got to admit they're pretty big homers.
Oh, and I don't mind them being homers.
I don't mind them, but listening to the guys, that was the first time you heard Johnny Pearson and Fred Cusick.
I couldn't believe them. They were against us.
They were anti-Boston.
They were anti-Boston. Well, first of all, they liked the club that they had before, where they used to score a lot of goals and there was no fights and stuff like that.
Maybe they just didn't like you.
Well, I never thought of that.
Not at all.
Probably didn't like me either. And well, if they didn't like me, they didn't like the club because I brought all those guys in.
It was 2-2, right? And there was 3 fights and some big hits. And they were complaining about, let's get back to hockey.
Let's play hockey.
Yeah.
Let's get to playing hockey. They must love hockey today.
The fans were going insane. Remember, the fans were going crazy. And, a 2-2 game. Stan Jonathan got into a big fight. Then Terry and Dan Maloney got into a big fight right off the bat.
Did I tell that story about Dan?
Well, a lot of people don't, again, this is if you can Google the game, it's 1970. Okay, but a lot of people don't realize why Dan Maloney and Terry Riley fought less than a minute into the game.
Yeah. I knew that was coming, and so did Terry. Terry never ever talked about what he's going to do, but I knew that was coming.
Well, tell the story what happened.
Okay. So I used to tell Terry all the time, he was the most fair guy in the world. He would never ever sucker a guy from behind or side or anything like that. He tapped the guy on the shoulder, dropped the gloves, and then they go. And I said, Terry, I said, you don't do that. I said, that is the stupidest thing I ever heard. I said, you're going to run into a guy, you're going to tap him on the shoulder, and he's going to turn around, he's going to break your nose. Smash it. Well, he says, that's the way I work. And he said, I don't do. Danny Maloney, when he played for Detroit, right?
Yeah, he was playing for Detroit at the time.
Yeah, Terry tapped him on the shoulder as if to fight. He just turned around and just smashed him. And then blood was everywhere. Nose was bleeding. And I never said a word.
Because he knows.
I never said a word because if you said a word to him, boy, so I never said a word. But I knew right off the bat, the next game,
less than a minute in. and again, those guys didn't clue in. Cusick and Pearson.
They had no idea.
They didn't clue in. Nothing precipitated this fight that these two would be fighting.
I don't understand. Johnny Pearson was one, and Fred Cusick was the other, and they loved college hockey, which there was no fighting in it.
And for the Leaf fans, that game, that was one of his first games because they traded Errol Thompson
Yeah.
For Dan Maloney. Errol Thompson was...
Now I like Dan Maloney. You know, I like Dan Maloney.
Yeah.
But Errol Thompson used to get 40 goals every year.
So that was the line that you said gave you fits, was McDonald, Sittler, and Thompson.
I remember one time they used to put Earl Thompson. He was the left-hand shot, and it was the left-hand corner, eh? And Sittler used to get the draw just about every time, put it back, and he'd get a great shot. So Terry Doe came to me and he said, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" You know, he's a very excited guy. "What are we going to do? We can't." And I said, "I don't know." I didn't know.
Yeah,
Get the draw. I guess that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, but that was something. But yeah, it was just amazing to see the difference in the game. And
Now, what do you like, Tim?
I think, you know what? I think I liked it with the red line in.
Bobby Orr, he's pretty smart. He used to study the games. He said that the red line should be in. Just slow them down a bit so they don't...
It's just now they get the puck and they fire it down the ice. And there was 2 icings as compared to... I was watching a game the other day, a third period. There was 7 in the third period alone.
I watched one time last year. It was 21. We watched 21 icings. 21!
And nobody thrown out on the face-off.
Oh, I want you to watch the face-offs from now on. The second one is never. He just drops it, bang, it's gone. I just don't understand it.
And again, in that 78 game, they just lined up, drop. If you weren't ready,
yeah,
too bad.
I don't mind cheating. I didn't mind cheating. Bobby Clark was the best cheater of all time. If he knew how to cheat, better for him. Well, Tim, I'd like to talk about he rode shotgun for Pavel Bure. And, you know, Pavel Bure, he was a dirty little hockey player, too.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the passing of Gino Ojek. But, Bure got away with a lot of stuff because of Gino. Remember when he hit, who did he close?
Oh, that was
he
something
threw an elbow.
And he almost tore the guy's head off.
Yeah, and the only reason he could do that because he knows that guy gets up.
Gino would be there to protect him.
Gino would be there.
Now, he was a member of and I'm going excuse me if I don't pronounce these right, Kitchigen Ziti Anakishin Keg First Nation. Now that's the best I can do, and I didn't know how to pronounce it. He was very, very proud of his indigenous heritage. Now he's very proud of that. And in 1993, and he's no dummy, eh? He had 16 goals, he had 13 assists, he had 20 points. And Pavel Bure could fly anywhere he wanted to because Gino was there to protect him. And he played for Vancouver Canucks, and they just loved him. They introduced him at a game, and the other thing, I thought they were going to bring the house down.
Yeah, no, he was a fan favorite.
He was from Maniwak, Quebec, and he was a great guy. And I really liked him, boy.
Gino, though, he was one of the toughest guys, I think, in the league.
He was a big guy, and he knew his job, and I just love guys that knew their job. And he was a good guy, and it showed it in the Vancouver crowd when he was introduced. Every man to a thing just about tore the building down.